Welcome to Holistically Speaking. I'm Hilary Russo, certified holistic health coach and health and wellness journalist. This is an empowering place to explore self-awareness, self-love, and transformation through health, healing, and humor. By sharing life-changing experiences, knowledge, and guests with varied expertise, we'll explore who we are, how we got that way, and what it takes to be a happy and healthy grown-up. Mind, body, and spirit. I'm glad you're here. Let's face it, we've all been affected in some way or another by a relationship, right? A marriage, a divorce, a setup, a breakup, healthy, toxic, the players, the lovers, the givers, the takers. If you're not one, you've known one, and then some. But what does it take to surround yourself with the nurturing, loving, passionate, caring kind of love that we all strive for? To the career-driven woman out there listening, the boss babe that you are, you've probably questioned why love isn't entering your life. Here's what some of you recently shared with me. Success is intimidating to a potential partner. Life after divorce is difficult in the dating world. Never being married means I'm perceived as being too busy and not having time for a relationship. I hear you. I hear all of you. But I'm putting the kibosh on this right now because it's time to take your power back, to drop that story you're telling yourself and rewrite the narrative. And if I could welcome anyone else to empower you on this journey, it's Barry Price. He's a relationship expert and has coached thousands of successful women around the world. Barry has seen firsthand how you can turn your love life around when you start asking yourself some very important questions and use your own power to manifest the love you not only desire, but deserve. And by the way, to the guys out there listening, there are some morsels of goodness in here for you too. On this episode of Holistically Speaking, get to know Barry Price, his story, his mission, and what it takes to lean into love. Barry, it is such a pleasure to have you on Holistically Speaking. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I know you're a super busy guy, especially with things coming up soon, and I just want to say thanks.
More than happy to be here. Super excited to continue our conversation. It's not the first time we've spoken, though. Maybe the first time people are hearing us speak.
Definitely. So for those who are new to the space and are new to learning about Barry, you are a relationship coach for powerful women. I love that. It just sounds powerful in its own right. And I think the thing that I would love for you to share is just how you get into something like that. What's Barry's story?
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Exactly.
Right.
I love it.
It's not one of those things kids role play in the sandbox growing up. It's like, I'm a relationship coach and you're an astronaut. And so it certainly wasn't something I knew I'd be doing. And yet it really did start when I was a kid. I remember from the time I was 7, 8 years old on, my mom, who's a very successful, vivacious, big personality woman, she was a single mom who was starting to date. So I was along for that ride, to the great parts of it, the not so great parts. And I just remember, Friday nights, the ritual really almost of had her hair done and which earrings go with this dress, red dress or black dress. I'm like, well, do you want to be more fun tonight or more demure and classy? Kind of probably didn't say demure when I was 7 or 8, although I might have. I was kind of a nerd. But I saw her kind of come home from the dates and we'd break it down, right? It's like, how did it go? Is he divorced? Did he talk crap about his ex-wife? Did he pull out the chair for you? The whole thing. And it was just us. So I wanted to know and I wanted her to be happy. But I wasn't a coach at the time. So there wasn't much I could do if the guy hadn't called by Wednesday. And I could see her like drawing the shades and being kind of sad. And I also saw the elation if there was a second and third date. What I really saw is what successful and powerful women can go through. When they almost start to have their power taken away, it becomes external to them. The fate of this ups and downs of him, and, what's he going to do? And how's the relationship going? So that's where it really began emotionally for me. Then it kind of was latent for many decades. I went through my own kind of journey, a nerd in high school, all boys school. It's a little lonely to do that. And then in my 20s, I overcompensated, just went nuts, went wild, just dated everybody. And then in my 30s, it was settling down time. And I've been with Anna for 17 years now. And so we're a happily married couple, but I had to grow up. So I've also been every kind of guy. I like to say that to women is no matter what kind of guy you're dealing with, I've been the shy, he's so nice and people pleaser. I've been the player, won't commit, and I've been the guy to emotionally mature. And that led me to life coaching. I thought I would help shy, nerdy guys learn to be confident with women. So it was my path. But pretty quickly, I had one male client and 7 female clients. And so I asked my mentor, what's going on here? And the women were telling me, Barry, you just get it. It's like you say things that are what I'm thinking in my head, or you understand what I'm experiencing. And I realized it was because of that experience growing up. I have been a middle-aged woman dating men for 40 years. Like I've dated so many dudes without them knowing it, and been through what we're gonna tell Harry about. Like I've done it all.
And it's interesting because we all, as a woman speaking to a man, women, we do tend to gravitate to other women as far as we need our sisterhood, right? But there's always that one guy friend you want that's like, what do you think? What do you think he's thinking? What do you think he's thinking? So it's interesting to be able to talk with a coach or somebody in the therapeutic field that is of the opposite sex to kind of get that background. So
I'm the best gay friend who's not gay, right? It's like, okay, good. I can get out guys'
point it.
Right? It's like, but there's that cisgendered hetero perspective of relationship that can be added to it. Yeah.
Interesting way to put it. I love that. And it must be really powerful, even in your own relationship with Anna, to be able to have those kind of conversations. I've watched some of your videos with your wife where you're taking your morning strolls. And I love it because I'm like, we're kind of getting this like fly on the wall with the two of you, or without the walls. And it kind of gives a perspective of relationships and coupledom, and just being able to be a powerful duo, especially when you have children and dealing with everything you're dealing with.
More and more of the real peek behind the curtain. I think it's really, it's super important. More and more we're craving that, not just tell me what to do. It's like, show me what you're doing and who you really are. Esther Perel, who's my mentor, well, one of sort of many mentors along the way.
Her.
Her podcast is a wonderful example because you get to peek behind the curtain into real sessions, right? So it's that idea. We want real. And so that's why Anna and I started sort of sharing that, include, the ups and the downs. Like we had one recently where we, I think it was irritation and appreciation, right? It's like sometimes couples get annoyed with one another. What do you do?
Well, sometimes you want to shoot them through a cannon. And then sometimes you need to like take a step back and just, it's really, and I talk about this a lot about resonance. It's about seeing yourself in the other person's eyes and being able to deal with the empathy and resonance of the other person. Obviously, we need to do that and not reacting so fast, right? I mean, we have emotions. We have to be able to share our emotions, but we also need to be witness to the other person's emotions as well.
I like the direction this is heading. Good. Because we're starting to get into why I love talking to you is there's a big overlap, right, between what you do and what I do. When I started in what I was doing, as with so many things, we sometimes are externally focused. Right? I want to get the guy. Right, because I do a lot of help of successful single women too, right, who are looking for the right man and soulmate. And so it was the checklist. I want him to be these things, and we would get them the date, and then they would sabotage the date because they were like, "I've never had a guy this good," And it was like, "Oh, there's emotional stuff under this that we've got to deal with, or you're just going to blow up even the best opportunity." So when you start talking about feelings and leaning into that, it's like, so much of this is about the emotional patterns we've had and releasing or surfacing some of the hidden emotional stuff. And what do we do with our feelings so that we're not reactive and we can respond more intentionally and consciously? What do we do to regulate our emotional response so that we're not into sadness, fear, loneliness, anger, so many of the things that can screw up relationships and dating?
Yeah, definitely. So going back, I mean, here's this young man. Do you have siblings?
I do. I have a sister. It's funny
Hmm.
because she's a half sister, but I never think of her that way.
Of course,
But
I'm the same
just
way. Yeah.
for clarity, it honestly is weird to me to say that. It doesn't feel
Mm,
true. I have a sister who's 9.5 years older, but from a different marriage, I guess is another way to put that.
yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. So look, I grew up in a household. This came up yesterday, actually. Anna was on the phone with some customer service person, and I could hear from the one side of the conversation that she was like, yes, he's a pretty different kind of guy. Yep, he does this. Because she was appreciating in the background, hearing some stuff I was saying around, female experience, let's put it that
Mm,
way,
mm,
of their biology. And the reason it came up is I am that kind of guy. That I grew up with a mom, I had an older sister, so I grew up in a wasteland of feminine hygiene products. I'm super
mhm.
comfortable with them. I'll buy them at the store. I'll keep the extra ones in the glove box. Like, I'm not uncomfortable with the feminine. It's
That's
what I'm used
great.
to.
Oh, it's nice to know the guy can go grab some tampons when you go ask him to do
Why
that, right?
not? Why are we so insecure as men that this is going to make our genitals fall off and what's wrong with us?
Yeah,
Honestly, come on, guys. It's like, be secure as a man.
right.
It doesn't do anything to you if you go do something nice for your woman.
I love it, love it. So going back a little bit, you were this guy being raised by a single mom. You have your sister. You're around the feminine energy, and fast forward, you go through what you mentioned. Acting out and doing what guys do and girls. I
Mm,
mean,
mhm, mhm,
there's like it's part of what makes us who we are. And
mhm.
then you find Anna, and you have this beautiful marriage and relationship. But in all that, I mean, where was this idea that, what, this is really what I want to do? I mean, have you been through your own kind of upsets in your life that kind of said, I need to help people on this journey? Because that's kind of what happened for me. I realized, being a journalist for 25 years, working in totally various areas of journalism with different beats, I knew that health and wellness was so important to me, and sharing emotional well-being and how can I help people get there because of my own traumas that turned into
Yep,
triumphs.
yep.
What's Barry's story?
Well, I'll give you a menu of options, Hillary, and then you can choose which one you want to
Cool.
kind of go down. Um, all of my big inflection points in life came from breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs, right? Because first I had to hit bottom in whatever way, and then there's a check yourself moment. So obviously the stage was certainly set with my mom's needs and just her happiness, and my needs coming second. I became a very well trained rescuer, codependent kind of dude
Mhm.
in childhood and growing up. And so then how does that show up in my 20s? Well, part of it is just wanting to escape from feeling too much. So lots of partying in college. So let's drink, let's party, and let's meet women, let's have sex. Right. So it's all disconnection. And I reached a certain point early in college where I remember it was the first time I'd fallen in love, but it was really infatuation. It was all fantasy, right? We didn't know each other well. Uh, and I was so depressed that it didn't work out because I was so overly attached. It was melodrama, right? Like she's an angel, or it's desolation and it won't work. It's all exaggerated. So I was depressed after that. Went into therapy for the very first time. And I remember the therapist, who was a master's student at the student center, saying, Barry, you're smart enough that you can keep me out all summer as we do this, or you can just be vulnerable and let me in. We can talk about what's really hurting you. I was like, oh, damn it, she's right. She knows I'm not going to heal if I just keep intellectualizing. So that was kind of moment one, like, do I want to go into my trauma? Then there was a moment where I checked myself that I'd been drunk 7 days in a row, partying. And I was like, I need to
Mm,
make sure this isn't something that controls me. So I
mm,
stopped drinking for 3 months, but kept partying. I was like, I need to know that I can go to a bar and have fun without this. And thank God that was something I could do. So that was good. Then at the end of my 30s, it was when Anna and I met, she was dating 5 guys. She was a playette. I was dating 8 women. I was a player. And we deserved one another fully. We were both sick of the scene. We wanted to retire, right, from the game. But it was another moment where I got another girl's number. Hey, let's get together. How about Monday? Oh, I can't that night. I'm seeing this one. How about Tuesday? I can't that night. And I wasn't like pretending that I was falling in love with this one person. I was like, no, I
mm.
already am busy. I'm seeing somebody. Everyone was dating everyone. But I realized, like, dude, you have 8 people you're trying to see, and there's only 7 nights of the week. And it made me ask myself the question, well, how many is enough? Do I need 10 women to be happy? 30? 300? I was like, oh, this isn't a quantity issue. I'm missing something inside. So that was another big moment. And then moving from Toronto to LA, there were some definite struggles there, with like, should we be here? Should we go home? Is this even going to work? And sadness, anger. So take your pick. We can go into any of those, or we can go into my 13th birthday party when I moved from a public school to a private school, and we lived far away, and no one showed up. And my mom was out working on a real estate closing. And I just sat there as a 13-year-old and cried because I was alone on my birthday. So that was a painful one too. So like, I've got a panoply of trauma. I've worked with a lot of it, but let's see where we go with this.
Well, first of all, I want to go back on, love the term playette, because I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I heard that. You like that.
I do. And second of all, I think I gravitate to you because I absolutely adore Canadians.
Okay.
I didn't realize that you were from Canada originally.
Yes.
So there is a vibe to the Canadians. And is Anna from there as well?
Yes. Well, she was born in Montreal, then moved to Toronto. So we met in Toronto. I'm from Toronto.
Gotcha. I was trying to place the accent.
By the way, Toronto, for those listening, because we taught our American friends this, they were like, oh, you're from Toronto. I'm like,
oh, gosh.
Very few people pronounce the last T in conversation, right? It's Toronto.
All right.
It's just faster. Come
on. Noted, and I will never do it again.
No, you can say Toronto. It's correct, actually.
It sounds very formal, though.
Toronto.
So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Yeah. And I think your story is very similar to a lot of people. I remember dealing with bullying when I was a kid. I know that had a lot to do with it. And feeling that FOMO, that we use that acronym now, but fear of missing out has been around since the dawn of time,
Yes.
and that can really add to a lot of emotional distress as well. So put that all together, and it's the feeling of wanting, the feeling of wanting and being accepted and loved and cared for. So it makes sense that you would go through all of these different emotional states and actions that led you to where you are now. So do you find that you use that a lot in your own coaching?
Well, look, some of that's going to just be naturally done without realizing that that's there, right? Like, why do you get drawn to a certain kind of person? It's experiences in our past often. So the empathy is there, the sometimes the puzzle pieces that fit, like a strong woman who has some self-doubt, right? It's like they're powerful, but then what they can't make sense of often is why do I give my power away? Or like, why am I strong in these areas, but I beat myself up? I don't like feeling needy around men. Like, that's not me, right? It's not the self-identity. So yeah, I relate in a lot of ways to that stuff. And, I relate in my business too. It's not just in relationships. In my business, there are times where I feel vulnerable, a little bit scared. Like the event that we'll probably be mentioning at some point, I feel I'm going out on a little bit of a limb there, right? It's a much bigger thing than I've done, with many more people invited to the party, so to speak. And I think the reason the 13-year-old example of the birthday party no one showed up to comes up is I have a sensitivity there. It's like, ooh, what if no one shows up? Doing this big party, what if no one comes? Like, those things stay with you. Yeah. I'm an adult. I rationally know better, right? But it's just important to understand the emotional stuff we've experienced in our past. It's still in there, like a bunch of Russian nesting dolls. Like, they're little they're in there. There's littler versions inside somewhere. That 13-year-old boy's in there somewhere. And so he can get activated, like a client can get activated if they don't hear back from a guy. Or if it's an on-again, off-again guy that won't commit, it can activate something from their past. An unresolved emotional wound of theirs can be awoken. And that's, not always helpful.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because I do enjoy doing the child work with clients, going back and with myself, even when I work with my own therapist or practitioners who I work with, because I think the best type of practitioners and coaches are those who are getting coached themselves. We don't stop. Yep. I'm always a little leery of those who are just like, they don't do the work. I'm like,
this is like a personal trainer who doesn't exercise or eat healthy. Like, I don't believe in what I sell. It's like, no, you ought to be using it too.
Walk the walk, people. Walk the walk. And that's what we do here, So doing the child work and going back to the inner child is so important in nurturing young Barry, who sat there at 13. I do the same thing with young Hillary. but
Yeah.
talking to the child, not talking to the adult. And that's kind of where the disconnect happens. A lot of people don't realize they're talking to
Mhm.
the wrong age of that person within, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get it. I mean, there are plenty of times that I think we all have been there, talking to listeners now. We've all been there where we're like, is anyone going to come? What if I'm planning this? I spent all this money on food,
Yeah.
or
Right.
or I just bought this new outfit. Is this date going to suck?
Yes,
It,
that's
it's
right.
it's
You're out
all.
there, you're on a limb, you feel vulnerable in a way, and it feels out of your control.
Mhm.
Marianne Williamson even talks about this in one of her books. She talks about the event she put on, and then people didn't show, and just how she felt so discouraged. And her dad was there saying, like, "I'm proud of you,
Mhm.
for you being able to do something like this." And to,
Mhm.
so yeah. But you're absolutely right. Those parts get activated, and they don't always support us to be in our most empowered, confident state.
Yeah, but in that moment of vulnerability, and Brene Brown talks about the vulnerability and the
Mm-hmm.
courage, that's where we have the courage to come out on the other side and find the empowerment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If we
Mm-hmm.
don't know what it's like to feel this, how are we gonna know what it's like to feel that?
Yeah, there's a difference between acting like
Mhm.
you're strong, right? I
Yes.
always call it the armor and the sword
Mhm.
that we develop kind of growing up is, if we've been hurt or let down by people, or we were parentified children, quite often if the
Mhm.
parents had their own stuff, right? And it's like, I have to be the stable, functional one by the time I'm 10, 12, 15, whatever it is. We can start to be like, I can't rely on others. Others disappoint me or hurt me or let me down. There's two choices. We can be the aggressive, have F off written on our forehead in a post-it note that will put the wall up, or the armor, right? Which is like the keeping people out to feel safe.
Mm.
The thing is, when we do that, when we protect, and we did those for good reasons at the time, it's an adaptation to survive emotionally at the time. But later, we can be trapped in the same thing. You go into the castle, you pull up the drawbridge, and you're safe in there while the barbarians are all around the castle. But, 20 years later, when it's beautiful out there, you need to go out and get food and receive sunshine, you're still hiding in the castle with all the windows shut. Nothing can get in either. Like, you can't let love in, you can't experience joy. So anything that's shutting out potential pain is also shutting out potential joy and love.
Yeah, the fortress we build around ourselves.
Hmm.
Sure, good
Hmm.
point. So, how easy or difficult was it for you to fall into, and I like using that term, falling into,
Hmm.
uh, the work that you do? Instead of just being a life coach, where was the turning point for Barry where you said, "Oh, yeah, working with powerful women, helping them on their journeys to find love, helping them, you know, do the inner work." Where did that happen for you?
So first of all, I love that you like words. It's clear,
I
like
do.
different words. You're like, that word. I like this word. So I
I
love
do.
that. That's where the word geek
Holistically
in me.
speaking, I do.
Yeah, the word geek in me sees the word geek in you. It's great.
I know, I'm a wordplay.
Um, I grew up being rewarded for my academics. Bring a
Mhm,
report card home, get a hug. If it's A pluses, if it's A minuses, get yelled at, kind of thing.
mhm,
So for me, I identified a lot with my intellect, my head. And in my 20s, what that meant was I was not so much just in that spiritual stance. I was agnostic.
mm,
I trusted mind and what I saw and was concrete, and also was getting my first validation externally through sexual attraction and my physique and this sort of stuff. I bring that up because the big transformation for me into my 30s and through my 30s, whereas I began to let go of basically of ego, right? And of just, I want it to look this way and I'm in control of all of it and I'm going to make it happen and manage it and engineer it. And, you know, and to slip more and more into surrender, like you say, like falling into something, it's like allowing and being present and listening more to, well, where am I being nudged to or guided? So not fighting things. And when I got into the life coaching thing, um, I self-identify as a writer still. It was my primary way of getting to express what was deepest for me growing up. And so I was kind of nibbling around the edges of a writing career, and I'm still a writer, and there's some books in the works and whatnot. But when Anna began to get trained as a coach, because she had a health background and she wanted to add the behavior change part, okay, I would listen to her coach training and I was like, sometimes the concepts would appeal to me. So I hired a life coach. Typical of me, I like to start at the top. I went to the guy who owned and ran the school, like the Yoda of coaches, master coach. I was like, I want you to be my coach, not one of these underlings who learned from you.
Mhm.
And he was amazing. And he began coaching me. And then at a certain point, he bamboozled me in a lovely way where he's like, I think you could be a good coach. I was like, really? Appeal to the ego, maybe the dying ego that was there. And at first it was, well, what have you been good at? What's the big transformation you've gone through? I was shy. I had no girlfriend. I was almost 23 and had never had a girlfriend. I was like, enough of this. And then I learned to meet women anywhere and be confident with women. He said, you could help shy guys. So it began with like, okay, maybe there's a calling. Maybe there's a thing I'm meant for. Maybe I can look at it more that way as opposed to my 20s, which was what would make me a lot of money. Let's try that. So instead it was more service. And then I tried it. And that's, as I said, when all these women were hiring me. And he said, well, let's listen to that. It's showing us, it's revealing itself to us. Maybe this is what you're meant to be doing. And so I had to go back and then examine, to me, if you listen to your intuition, which is kind of our form of higher guidance, if we trust that first, then allow the mind to bring in its analytical, to make sense of it, it can fill in the gaps to explain it. When we try to figure out our purpose from analytical pros and cons, we generally make wrong choices for ourselves. So I followed my heart, followed my intuition, and then analyzed, not is this right for me? It's, okay, clearly this is right. Why is it right? So just like help me understand why I'm accepting this. And it was, well, Barry, your mom. It's like you wanted so badly for her to be happy and find love, and you didn't have the ability to help her then. Now you do. So it means everything to me when a woman who's strong, successful, powerful, but just men, relationships are the one last thing she can't quite figure out, and she hates admitting it, right? Because I get that as a high achiever. It's like I'm like magic there. That's where I'm born to do it. I'm a fish in water. So why would I fight that? And it just makes
Yeah.
sense. And it's fulfilling at a deeper level too for that
Why would
reason.
you fight that? You know? It's so beautiful when we realize our purpose and our passion kind of fuse together.
When we
It's a shift.
accept it, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Like, stop fighting it already. Same thing with the intuition. The fact that we tend to go against our gut, and our gut is like, I love to call it with clients, it's like a Doppler radar. It might actually be more accurate than the Doppler radar weather. You know,
I
we tend
agree.
to we go against our gut, which is our intuition. I mean, we have our gut, our microbiome gut, and then we have our head gut. And if we just let it be and allow ourselves to be present with the knowledge that's coming to us first, I think
Yeah.
we'd be really pleasantly surprised at the outcome if we just trust ourselves more.
Absolutely. And look, those are so connected. I'm talking to
Mhm.
someone who lives in that realm, right,
Mm.
of body and mind and
Yeah.
emotional connection.
Yeah.
But more and more research verifies, right,
Mhm.
the neurons in the gut that can sense a feeling we're having milliseconds before the brain registers it.
Mhm.
Like, I don't feel safe with that person, or, I'm elated. And it'll register in our gut first. The vagus nerve is being more thoroughly explored, and how that functions in connecting the gut and its quote unquote intelligence.
Mm.
Like, we're starting to understand there is actually not just some airy fairy word of intelligence with gut instinct, but there's actual hard science beginning to come into back the idea that gut instinct
Mhm.
is a type of intelligence.
Well, neuroscience, you're speaking my language. So,
Let's do it.
I love it. So, the other thing I'd love to touch on is that you mentioned, and you just mentioned this, before we got into the intuition, but the idea of, well, it's the be do have, and
Mm,
wanting something is great, but being something is more important in order for you to have it, and then, to
yeah.
do it and then to have it. And
Yeah.
that philosophy, I love following that. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. It's a really tricky concept for anyone to get until they
Mm,
experience it.
totally.
I had a
Agreed.
client, who recently was like, you know, Barry, we've been working on this thing for a while. And I know we've covered the concept and I understood it and I was practicing it. And I was, be loving, being loved, but it was last weekend. I felt it. She's
Mhm.
like, oh, it's like, oh, this is what Barry's been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like, despite a year of, learning the concept, of taking it out and practicing the concept in her life with friends, family, self-love, self-care, by demonstrating it through self-care, like all sorts of things that we taught her and that she was doing. It's a lot of doing and experiencing. It wasn't until she really felt it. It's kind of like if you're a beginner tennis player and you're kind of hitting the ball and you're doing, and your gross motor movements approximate what it looks like. And then there's just some moment, whatever sport it is you've been in, a hobby you've had, a moment where suddenly it clicks and you feel it. It's natural to you. You're not looking at your feet and trying to remember the dance steps. You're just dancing. You're just dancing. You're just being it.
Just being.
You're flowing with the music, not trying to, what's the beat and where does my foot go? And it's that. It's the moment where you can just be the essence. It's what I think it was Eckhart Tolle or someone was saying. Affirmations, we're generally using them before we really embody and believe it. That's why we're using them, right? He said Bill Gates no longer needs a Post-it note on his mirror saying, I am wealthy. He doesn't need to tell himself that every day. He knows it. So it's that difference between trying to work ourselves up to a belief and just knowing. I say to my clients, we're working to get to the point where you don't come back to me excited to report that you actually really felt good about yourself after a date, or actually, and he treated me well, like as if it's a surprise. We're looking for when we get to we had an amazing weekend. Of course we did. Or I was so proud of myself. Of course I am. It's like, of course. It's like the person who's not surprised that they went to college because it was expected of themselves. It's like, of course I went to college. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's just a thing. It's like, why are we making a big deal of this? Because it's just me being, right?
This is true. Sometimes after they have these breakthroughs, I'll have them repeat out loud things like, this is me. This is true. This is normal, right? This is not the exception. This is my normal.
Yeah. Instead of being surprised by this is my normal, this just is. This just is.
That's right.
And because, I've dealt with that a lot with clients too, and also my students, my college students that I teach. That idea of you stop. You got to get out of your head. Like, my job is to help you get out of your head.
Got to get out of there alive.
Out of there, right? Get out. Stop. You can't just sit there and do a positive affirmation and say the words. You have to truly embody what you're saying.
Are you feeling it?
Are you feeling it? Are you being authentic to it? Are you seeing the visual of of the life you want to create? All of these things are part of it, and this is where we can kind of come face to face with fear and come over the other side of things, is by, what, this is it. This is it. It is what it is.
If it's uncomfortable at first, though. So I want to just throw that in. I was talking to Dr. Peter Frankel recently about him trying to help last chance couples that are like right on the brink. He said he'll give them things to take home and do, and they'll do them. They'll come back and say, it felt uncomfortable. It felt fake and artificial to us. It's like, that's because you're not used to doing it. It's unfamiliar for you to have a healthy connective intimacy moment. So to you, it's like, well, that just rings false. And it's very true in the work I do with a lot of people around creating that deep knowing I'm enough, self-love. Is at first, I had a client yesterday doing some mirror work. She's like, it was really uncomfortable to look into my own eyes and say, I love myself. I mean, that's troubling, right? It's like, if I can't love myself, why would anyone else? So we got to fix that. When I first started trying to do it, Hillary, I remember I looked into a mirror maybe 15 years ago when I started to get more into this stuff. And I would say, I love you, like speaking to me, looking in my eyes, and like my eye would spasm. It's like something in me would fight it, like, like a vampire in the sun. You're burning me. And so it was an interesting thing. So getting comfortable initially with the discomfort and just seeing that it's not that this thing is wrong, but there's a part of me that's struggling with it. And it'll be a little unfamiliar for a bit.
That's the awareness. The awareness leads to the allowing, which leads to the alignment. So that
I like that.
I get that a lot. Oh, that's my AAA. So there has to be a sense of, this feels a little off, and that's okay. So great. Love that.
Sometimes you got to change your style. You go to the
Right.
store. No one goes to the store much anymore. They all order online. But I mean, there's that moment where somebody, a salesperson or a friend, it's like, try that on. Come on, try it. And you're like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is this me? I don't know. This isn't me. It's like, well, there's who you used to be up till this moment. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're interested in growth and change, you can't just wear what you've been wearing emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
behavior wise, fashion wise. It's like, give it a chance. Say, okay, give me the rest of the look. Could this be me? Maybe. Right? Don't just keep wearing what you've worn in terms of behaviors, habits, thoughts, all of it.
It's kind of like a makeover for the
Yeah,
mind. I
yeah,
like that.
that's right.
Yeah.
Internal.
Great. So let's move into what is coming up. We
Yeah, what
mentioned
is
this.
coming up?
What is coming up? We've got this fabulous Lean into Love Summit that you are
Hmm.
hosting, and I am absolutely elated to be a part of it. So
You're awesome on it, by the way.
oh, I appreciate that, and I really, appreciate you giving me some time and holding space for me to share more about havening techniques because it's really powerful. But you have
Mhm.
some amazing other people that are gonna be a part of it as well as including yourself.
Uh-huh.
So share with listeners what they can expect from Lean Into Love.
Okay. Before we get into that, though,
Yes.
I've got to love on you a little bit for how awesome you
Oh,
are.
oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
Because, I mean, for those of you listening, you may already know this, right, about Hillary. It's part of why you're listening. But she holds space
Mhm,
so well for other people to be reflected and expressed, right? And so
mhm,
in our, it was a conversation, not so much an interview, really. When we were talking about it, I'm thrilled to be getting you out to more people on this platform, right? But you created a space for me to feel safe, to lean in
mm,
and be vulnerable. I had Hillary, not I had her, she volunteered if I was gutsy enough for me to be vulnerable and do some havening.
mhm,
And it was so powerful, right? And in the interviews, we talk about it and how it connects to love and those things.
mhm,
But I wanted to thank you for being able to hold space with enough strength and competence that a person feels safe leaning in and against you, but without being forceful, so that again a person feels safe opening up and sharing themselves with you. It's a really important balance. Both need to be there. We can't be too oceanic and awash in everything, or we don't totally feel safe that the person can contain and guide. And it also can't be too, for lack of a better word, in the yang or masculine energy of just like do it and now next and come on. You
mm.
balance it so beautifully. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
you for your words and kindness. That hit me. I felt that, and I feel that was very authentic. And thank
Mhm.
you for sharing that. So we let our vibe attract our tribe, right? So
Totally, totally.
and you're part of that. So thank you, Barry.
Good. And I don't want to blow your time or have us run
No,
long because I'm
that's
going on
okay.
sidetracks. But I was in the moment. And I wanted to share that with people. But yeah, lean into love. The byline for it is it's for women who are ready for more.
Mm,
And so it's for more love, but whether you're single and you want more connection and a soulmate, whether you are looking at being more because you're in I want to focus on me phase. We do a lot there with self-care, self-love,
mhm,
healing in all 9 environments of the self to be the best you. And then, of course, relationship skills, things to make love last, ways to let go of a relationship that doesn't serve you and fully get over it and move on. Narcissism, codependency.
mhm,
I mean, we cover so many things. We've got like top matchmakers with over 3,000 marriages under their belt sharing about what people really don't want in a partner and what the secret key of what you need to
mhm,
cultivate in order to have success. I mean, I look at the list, it's like, where do we start? We go into neuroscience. We talk about the healthy masculine, telling men from boys, uh, confidence, health, how to save a relationship, how to get over a relationship, dealing with feeling stuck. Of course, with you, we're talking about so much of using the body and body techniques to release emotional blocks,
mhm,
subconscious blocks, trauma, patterns that are in you that can get in the way of attracting love or a healthy relationship or a healthy self, and how to get to that through your techniques.
yeah.
So we cover so many things from how to navigate divorce to never needing to navigate divorce
Mhm.
to all of that. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
I'm so excited. I'm excited to hear what others have to share as well. And just to touch on what you said, I am a firm believer of what I'm sharing because I did use it in the getting over a painful relationship myself
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
fell into havening, which helped me in my healing and on my journey. So, just one thing out of many that Lean Into Love is going to offer people, whether you are in something and trying to work on it becoming more powerful or getting out of, or just working on self, because we always have to work on self. This is a really beautiful opportunity you're offering in October 27th through the 29th. That's
Mm-hmm.
coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, it's going to be so great. There are people on it I didn't even expect to get, like
Mhm.
Jill Crosby, who founded spiritualsingles.com,
Mm.
because I
Mhm.
wanted someone to talk about online dating, which can not always be a thrilling experience for people in the right way. It's like, well, how do we do it in a way that feels good and that's more conscious?
Mhm.
One of our speakers shares about how she dated the Prince of Monaco for 3 years. I didn't see that coming. I mean, it's a pretty cool thing. Lots of surprises and insights. So yeah.
Wait, that's not normal?
No, that's not the norm. It's not part of the standard operating procedure of my courses and stuff.
Let me check my black book to see which prince I dated.
And then we had another speaker who was introduced to a Scottish prince,
Mhm.
who turned out he was not actually really a prince.
Oh,
So we had
goodness.
the real prince, and then we had the fake prince. Although she did end up marrying the guy who did the introduction. It was a high
Mhm.
school thing, and she'd met this guy who ended up being her husband when she was 15 years old. And so it was high school hijinks. He tried to hook his friend up who was from Scotland
Mhm.
and an exchange student. But she's an interesting person too, because she's talking about outer beauty and inner beauty, and she's a stylist to the stars kind of thing, from
Mm.
Reese Witherspoon to God knows how many
Yeah.
other kind of people. But she talks about the inner kind of part of that. So
Oh, so
yeah,
many great
it's
topics. I can't wait.
crazy.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's so just to mention again, October 27th through the 29th, I'm going to
Mhm.
add a link for my friends out there that are listening to Holistically
Link it up.
Speaking. Link it up so we can share it. It'll be on my website, hillaryrusso.com. And you'll just be able to click that direct link and it will take you there and the world will be your oyster.
Yes, and join us again for
Yes.
the other part of the discussion, which you'll be hearing second,
Hmm.
but that we did before this one. And
Yes.
it's like we're on a road trip here together. She's driving, I'm in the passenger seat today, and the next one you'll hear me driving, and she's kind of in the passenger seat,
Hmm.
or maybe it's the other way around, based on who's talking more. I don't know.
Hey, it's trust. It all comes
Yes.
down to trust and sharing the space, right?
Toast my
So,
goat.
so as we're totes my goats, listen to you. So before we close things out, I like to do two things. The first
Mm,
thing I would love to do with you is a quick rapid fire, and
okay,
that's
not
just
a quick havening.
we've already done the havening, but
I
you are
know.
always but
I'm teasing you.
the door is always open for more havening, my friend. Always, always. There's always space for that.
It was
So
powerful. Yeah.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you connected to it. I'd love to do a rapid fire in this
Yeah.
moment.
Let's.
And just I'll throw out a word. First word that comes to mind, you come back to it with
Oh,
me, okay?
with my crazy brain, I can't wait to see. Okay.
Oh, you'll be surprised. I just grab words from our conversation, basically. That's how I work it. I don't plan it. I don't pre-plan it. It's just
Yeah,
words
you
that.
you may need to edit or censor if anything weird or inappropriate comes out. But go ahead.
Okay, here we go. Dating,
Sex?
divorce,
No sex.
intuition,
Trust.
mom,
Lots of work.
marriage,
Beautiful.
women,
Powerful.
love.
Everything.
Brilliant. I love the divorce, not a lot of sex, although some might argue that might be a
Well,
time when
yeah,
they venture out.
absolutely. Look, typically, and so look, I'm reflecting from my stuff
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
I think, knock on wood, I'll do the Foley effect. Knock on wood. I've never been divorced. Don't intend to be divorced.
Yeah.
But if our paths took, and by the way, part of why Anna and I have lasted is we're going to be healthy and loved regardless of if we were together or not.
Mhm.
And so we'd be fine if we did part paths, but we don't think we will. Doubt
Mhm.
we will. But yeah, a lot of post-divorce is about rediscover that side of yourself, including many clients who are happily married now for a second time because they went through their wild oats phase. Time to have some
Mhm.
sex, time to have fun, time to not judge myself. Yeah, Shirley Valentine goes to Italy kind of thing.
Oh, I love it. Great. So as we close things out, what I would love is if you just leave some final thoughts. I mean, if you have this moment to just speak to the listeners of Holistically Speaking, what would you share with them?
Hmm. First of all, I want to thank you and honor you for even being here. You're here because you're open to making a commitment to yourself on a daily basis to be doing all the things you do as an incredible woman, all the hats you wear, all the roles you play, and knowing that you also deserve to show up to feed yourself, the things you need to be a happier you, for you to know you matter by receiving emotional support, tools, tips for you to feel happier and more fulfilled in your life. It takes courage, but most of all, it takes courage as a strong, high-achieving woman to know that it's okay for you to have needs and for you to allow others to play a part in you getting them met. It's okay to get support, not just from listening to Hillary, which she does amazingly well, but if you're really ready for more, then just be open to getting a little further out on that limb, getting a little more uncomfortable at letting some other practitioners in, whether it's summits, webinars, or someone you need to go start seeing in person. Be intentional about allowing yourself to get your needs met. You do matter.
Love it. And in turn, as a gentleman, as a man, what would you say to
Gentleman.
Yes, I like that. I love that word. I love the word gentleman.
Milady.
Milady, thank you. Thank you very much. What would you say to the guys out there as well? Even though I know you deal with women mostly.
No, I love this.
Yeah.
I would be dealing with it. I can't wait to get my hands on the guys.
Yeah, okay.
So the guys need some help, man.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, for those guys who are listening, I want to acknowledge you because you are not necessarily the majority of men right now, right? But we're working on it. We're working on consciously evolving as men to a new masculine that's not based on our superficial show of power to try to impress other men because we're afraid that men won't see us as manly. Constant competition to prove ourselves in the eyes of other men. But instead, to be a man from the inside out. Who am I and what are my values? How do I want to feel about myself? And how do I want to show up for my wife, my children, my family, myself? And to define our own terms as men. You know, my friend George, who was a DJ in college, used to play Madonna as the first song every time you would DJ. And the women would pack the floor. And I'd say to him, what about the guys? And he'd say, Barry, I don't care about the guys. Because if I can get the women on the dance floor, the men have to follow.
Mm.
And I've always remembered that bit of brilliant insight from a DJ friend. Because when I do this work, when women stand in their power, the men have to follow. So that's why I do what I do.
Whew. I felt that. That was awesome. Love that.
Thanks, George. And Madonna.
Yeah. Thanks, George and Madonna, and the dance floor, and the music.
And you, Hillary, for holding space for us to share this stuff.
Yeah. And thank you for being a guest and having a really beautiful conversation. I think we're going to see some serious value coming out of this. So thank you, my friend. It's been an honor.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. And I can't wait for what the future holds.
Likewise.
If you want to learn more about Barry and the Lean Into Love Summit, click the link on this podcast page for free access to the event. Over 21 speakers covering all areas of love and relationships, including yours truly. And I have a very special gift to share with you if you join us, and you don't want to miss it. And if you're interested in learning more about havening techniques and how I can support you on your journey to be kind to your mind, reach out to me and book a free discovery session by visiting my website, hillaryrusso.com. If you're enjoying the conversations on Holistically Speaking, I'd love for you to subscribe. We're available on all podcast platforms. And let me know if you have a transformational story you'd like to share. I'm definitely listening. Holistically Speaking is produced by Alan Seals with music by Lipbone Redding. Connection is everything, my friend, and it's why I'm here, because of you. Until next time, be safe, be well, and don't forget to laugh.